Hopers. Welcome, church. I hope you are ready for a good one. We are in Jeremiah chapter 29, and you already thought Jeremiah 29:11. I know, anytime someone says Jeremiah, my brain automatically jumps to 29:11. We have heard this verse hundreds of times. You might have it on a bookmark. You might have it on a piece of artwork in your home. You might have a little figurine with it. You might have been frustrated by this verse. You might have clung to this verse in times of trials. But here it is, once again. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope. What a beautiful scripture. What a beautiful verse. But I think it's important to remember, sometimes we look at this verse when bad things are happening, because often we pull this verse out when someone is going through a tough time and we're like, but if our promise is from God that He has plans for us, plans that will prosper us and not harm us, then why did this awful thing just happen to me? How could I possibly be walking through this illness? How could I possibly have lost my job? How could this awful thing have happened to someone that I love so much if God has this plan for us, plans to prosper us, plans that will not harm us? Well, remember, when we're reading the scripture, we need to look at the context as a whole. We can't just cherry pick different verses. We need to look at the scripture within that chapter and how it relates to that book of the Bible and how that book of the Bible relates to the entirety of the Bible and the goodness of God. So, the Bible has several characters where they go through lots of trials and tribulations, and God doesn't shield them. There's no stories in the Bible where they're like, here was Sally, and this awful thing was about to happen to Sally, but God said, no, this awful thing isn't going to happen to Sally anymore. I'm going to shield her. In fact, I'm going to shield anything from ever happening to Sally. But then no relationship with God and Sally would ever happen, would ever grow. Nothing would ever go deeper. Because God uses all of the errors and the trials and the hardships that we see in the Bible to grow in deeper faith and relationship with His children. Think about Jesus, okay? When He was here, God didn't make it all roses for Him to get to the cross. It was tough. He did not even get to the cross. He didn't say, okay, Jesus, you're going to come, and then we're going to throw a parade, and then eventually you're just going to get out of there, and we'll cover the sins that way. Remember? Jesus is in His most vulnerable, most stressed out position. What does He do? He retreats to the Father. He says, Lord, my cup is so full. This cup is too much for me. I'm sweating blood right now, God. I'm so stressed. So He retreats to the Lord and He says, please, this is too much for me. And God doesn't take it from Him. God's job isn't necessarily to take away the circumstance that is causing us so much pain. God promises to walk through it with us. God promises to take whatever is the pain from that trial and turn it into glory, turn it into growth. Take your relationship with Him deeper. So this verse isn't some promise that nothing bad is ever going to happen, because that is not a real promise. We live in a broken world, and that won't happen until we get to heaven. But right now, we are promised that our Abba Father will use the pain, will use the grief for something more beautiful. And oftentimes, it's growing and getting in a deeper relationship with the Lord. So look to Jesus as an example. He was at His wit's end. And what did He do? He drew near to the Lord. So next time something really difficult happens and you think about this verse and you're encountering a trial, it's like God saying, I knew this was going to happen, but just because it happened doesn't mean that I've forsaken you. I'm still good and I'm still God. And guess what? There's purpose in this pain. There's purpose in these trials. So church, now when you read this verse, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you. Whatever heartache or pain or yuckiness is in your life right now, God is saying, I know, and it sucks, and I'm here with you in it. But I also know how much you're going to grow, how much we're going to grow, and all the beauty that's going to come from it. Have a fantastic Monday, church. I'll see you next time.